Well, good morning, everybody. And if you're on the East Coast, it's noon. So thanks for joining, even during lunchtime. I hope you got something to eat, while we're going. This should go an hour, pretty close, but it shouldn't go over at all. So by 1 Eastern, 10 Pacific, we'll be done. And this is a Beyond the Basics series. We're continuing. It's biweekly. We do the Accountant Best Practice weekly, and then we have a service-based webinar, and then now we have this product-based one is what we're going to focus on today. So we're going to look at item-based settings and types. I still call them items, but I know it's products and services, but I'm used to desktop too. Two-sided items like in desktop because you can have those in QBO, but you need plus for that. Categories is just a way to categorize your item list, and it's kind of like a parent-child relationship on the list of your items. So you have a main item and sub-items. That's really what it is. And we'll go over categories and why they're important. You don't need to turn those on. If you convert it from desktop, you can stay with how you had the item structure in desktop, but just, educate your client not to turn categories on then. But they help with reporting and finding items on forms in the item field. Adjustments, starting value, sure, we'll look at that. You can do partial receiving against a PO. There are price rules now. It's kind of like price levels, but it offers a date range. Obviously, so that would be one above what Premier offers. Certainly not anything that Enterprise can do with their quantity pricing and quantity discounting. Let's see here. Customer type, though, that's a new field when you turn price rules on. I have some service-based people that just turn on price rules even though they don't actually use price levels at all. They just want customer type just for filtering reports. Then we'll sell some stuff. COGS gets debited for inventory when you sell it, so we'll look at that. Related reporting, recurring transactions, sales tax, refresh. We should look at that as well. And then payment slide to close. But do download the deck. Hopefully that'll be helpful. Now, before I dive into product, I'd just like to, if you do have clients that are really doing a lot with items, reselling, inventory, two-sided items, service-based stuff, job costing, they really not just, and they might only be 2 or 3 or 4 users, so they don't even need plus for 5 users. But you need plus for that kind of stuff. Plus is the most akin level to pro. Still missing out on a couple things. Estimate to actual reporting is not automatic. There's a workaround for that. So if you've been in my service-based show, there's a workaround, but not all your clients are going to be willing to do all that work just to get an estimate to actual report. So pro still has stuff like that. Pro still has the ability to add labor burden to job costing, where I can't do that in QBO, right? But Pro doesn't have build assemblies. Pro does not have sales orders, right? Neither does QBO. But plus, I think with the class tracking, location tracking, purchase order functionality, first in, first out inventory, though I know Pro is average cost, billable time expense, budgeting, even budgeting by a job. Again, QBO Plus is what really you should use for those types of clients, Now, if you want build assemblies but don't need like class tracking or things like that, you can do essentials with SOS inventory, right? And that's going to give you almost enterprise type level and more inventory functionality and capabilities, but you can just plug that into essentials because you don't really need essentials for the other stuff. It's only 2 users or something. So the third-party app system is definitely helpful for clients that want to be mobile, where Plus or QBO is not going to have the feature set, but how do I keep them so they can be on their phone doing all this stuff without desktop, without hosting? That's the apps. So a couple apps I'm going to write in here, and I'll put a few things, and then we'll dive into product. SOS inventory, probably my favorite for, build assemblies, enhanced purchase order workflow and visibility, different landed costs, if you will, for valuation, just better functionality, and it's mobile. So SOS is great for that, barcode scanning, all that stuff, tracking inventory across multiple locations. Right, stuff that QBO is not going to do. So SOS is great for that. And if you have any problems with downloading the deck, email me. Happy to send it later on, woody_adams@intuit.com. And then our website for short videos on all this stuff, QBObestpractices.com. Okay, let's dive into product. And I'll let you download the deck. It's got a lot of links and stuff like that. It's called Planet Paws Pet Supplies. That is a, pet shop. They do some boarding and grooming, and they do a lot of item activity. They have mostly inventory. They do have non-inventory parts, things like that. Let's look at settings first and then look at the different item types break down two-sided items and categories in inventory, and then we'll look at some transaction workflow and reporting. So gear icon, right? That's where your operational stuff is. We've been in here for managed users. We've been in here for, another way to get to products and services. Your recurring transactions list, we should look at that. We should also look at customizing sales forms and what you can do there. So let's do an overview of that as well. But this is kind of like edit preferences for me, if you're used to desktop, account and settings. And regarding item-based activity, you're going to go to sales. Here is where, we'll come back to sales form content in a sec. Simple Start and Essentials will have these. They won't have price rules, right? But they'll have, that, and they'll have that. But tracking inventory quantity on hand, that's basically turning on the inventory. It's first in, first out. But cost of goods sold is debited when you sell it. If you need cost of goods sold debited right away, then that's a two-sided item. You might just have a client that's a reseller. So we'll look at two-sided items. But inventory would be three-sided because it's hitting inventory asset as well as COGS and revenue. But the valuation method is first in, first out versus average cost, okay? But first in, first out can be advantageous as well. So you would turn that on there. Progress invoicing, turn it on. You might need it. It's in all the QBOs, Simple Start, Essentials, and Plus. But mostly, again, you're using it for in Plus, right? Because that has more the functionality that's more akin, feature set-wise, to Pro. But turn progress invoicing on, but that only progressively invoices against an estimate. I won't really be showing that. That's in the service-based business beyond the basics we do. We did it a couple days ago. The online delivery, though, yes, like that for, especially if you have payments turned on, which is its own tab, right? You just sign up for it. It's free. And so is getting paid from customers free. But the rub is it takes 5 days to fund, right? So if that's okay, I mean, that's better than most AR periods, certainly. But still, for some clients, that's not going to be acceptable. Credit card, receiving credit card payments is 2 to 3 days. I hope the ACH is faster, but I know a lot of firms that use the Your Books file, and they have payments turned on, and they just set up a recurring sales receipt for all of their clients, and put in the banking routing, and it's free, and they get paid 5 days later. Sales receipt goes out today, and they see it in their bank, on the 14th, by the 14th, right? Still better than sending an invoice and getting paid. So you can do that too with payments, however you want to do it, up to you. But the online invoicing is nice because it just allows me as your client or your client's customer to pay online and see the invoice and see notes on it, and you guys can talk back and forth, message back and forth at the invoice level. So I like that. I usually keep it there and show full details in email, or you can show a short summary, really up to you. That's where you change that. Statements, yeah, turn those on, although there's a way to add an account summary to an invoice, so it's kind of like a statement and invoice in one. I'll show you that as well. So before we go to expenses, let's touch on sales form content and customization. Clearly, that's going to impact product-based clients. So a lot of these things are already turned on. Now, custom fields. If you're used to Pro and Premier, you're used to having custom fields at the item level as well as the name level, like 5 at the item level and I forget, was it 15 or 12 for names? Something like that. It's been a while. But I know you at least have 5 fields at the item level, so you could have a custom field in the target area of the transaction. That's what I'm really missing in QBO, right? Custom fields are just at the sales form level. Estimate, sales receipt, invoice, right? But I can track sales rep, right? I can track a sales rep, and I can have these things be public or just internal for me, So in other words, public meaning it's not in the customer-facing invoice or in estimate or sales receipt, but it's internally for me, for reporting. But I figure, they want to see their pet name and pet kind. Custom transaction numbers, that is if you want QBO just to increment, like 1, 2, 3, 4, like the next invoice number would be 5, or you can have your own custom numbering system, turn that on. Right, that allows the number field on the sales transactions to be editable. Service date's nice if you're doing service stuff like grooming, things like that. It just puts a column on the transaction. You'll see that. And then you can take a discount or make a discount or give one, I should say. Sorry. Excuse me. Or taking an upfront deposit. It automatically goes to another current liability account. I think it's called customer deposits or something. So there's those things you can turn on or off. Right? Shipping is just going to track shipping. I don't think it really links to UPS or FedEx, but there it is. Now, invoice terms, though you can have net 15, 30, you can create your others. There's no way yet to do, hey, if you pay me, 1% per net 10 or something, whatever you call that, like if you pay me in 5 days, it's not going to automatically calculate the 1% off, right? I know Desktop does that, and QBO also doesn't do finance charges, but there's a third party for that. Just something to consider, So customize look and feel. So those are where you go. I mean, definitely when you're setting up the client file, if you don't think it's there, it might be a setting you just haven't turned on. So go into the sales setting. There's a lot there. I'm sure you've been in there too. So let's look at just the standard invoice template. Now, again, this can be an invoice. This can be an estimate. This can be a sales receipt. For product-based, my guess is you're using mostly invoice and sales receipts, not so much estimate. That would be for service-based workflow and job costing. We're talking more just invoice and sales receipt here. We give you five different templates. Right. Yes, you can have a different logo, but it changes the logo of the company when you change it. So I just still have one logo that I use. Now, content is where I like to go because it opens up this kind of layout designer. So I have the top part of the form, which are the custom fields, right? And what you can call the form. I still don't know what that is there for. Okay, tax invoice, invoice estimate, tax receipt, and then I have, the custom fields. 3 custom fields for the form, right? Now, if I click the bottom pencil or the target area, this is where, just I like to show this because you can add an account summary, which will include a balance forward, new charges, and total amount due. So it's kind of like a statement information at the top of the invoice. You can't move it around, but it's good to have the account summary on there. But if you see it and you don't like it, that's where you go to turn it off. Okay? So that's a table they put on there. Do I want to include category, description, product, service, quantity, rate? I mean, you can include description and have the quantity rate in there. I mean, it's up to you how you want it to show, right? And then it should match. That's how mine's going to look. And then remember this, show more activity options. Do I want to group by type, day, week, month? Sometimes that helps for visibility or visually seeing the work done or what was sold on the invoice. You can collapse activity rows. And then, do you want to show billable time? I never show the markup, right? But I'll include hours and rates sometimes. So there's that as well. And then progress invoicing, right? But that's not really for what we're talking about here today. And then you have emails, and then you have payments, right? So I can just turn on bank transfer if I have payments just for this template, and that's the only payment option it will be, assuming I have payments turned on. Because, again, it's free. It's just 5 days to fund. So customizing, there is some, and you can actually also import from a Word doc, but I think it only is for the invoice at this time, right? And if you're good at mapping on Word docs and stuff, it's pretty good. It's not going to give you any extra fields than what you saw, but it keeps you from reinventing the wheel. Okay, so some people will export their form out of desktop and then try to bring in what they can based on the available fields or supported fields, I should say, in QBO using the import style functionality. Okay, so customizing forms, other settings. Let's go back to settings and look at expenses just real quick. If assuming you need 2-sided items, they're in QBO Plus already, but sometimes you want to show the items table on expense and purchase forms, so you would check off that box. You might necessarily need to tag a customer or make it billable to pass through, but you at least want this first top check box. This puts not only, so on a bill and a check, and you'll see that because we'll go purchase some stuff, you'll see account details, right? So you can tag the account, but you'll also see item details. You need that, okay? And that's something that's not in Essentials or Simple Start, right? Okay, so Simple Start and Essentials have single-sided items. Again, 2-sided items is my big sleeper hit for, why you want Plus. Purchase orders can also have 3 custom fields, but you can't customize it beyond that, right? And I'll just turn them off now. I don't need them right now, but you might. And then they can do its own custom transaction numbering. And then in advanced, not much. I mean, for item-based, if you do want some class tracking or location tracking, then this is where you turn this on. I'm sure it would impact any of your clients. So classes, I typically use 1 per row, so I can have multiple classes on a transaction. So I usually leave it to this 1 to each row, and let location be just 1 for the entire transaction. And that's all that location supports, although location has several different labels you can choose. Now, P&L by class? Yes. P&L by location? Yes. Balance sheet by location? Yes. Balance sheet by class? No. Okay? Not viable at this time in QBO Plus. So it's important when you're talking to nonprofits. If they can just do one class on a bill and that's cool, then do location tracking for a balance sheet by location. Okay, it's important to note. But a profit and loss all day long. And then, yeah, okay. Tracking projects, not really here. Time tracking, all right. So those are the main things with product-based business. But yes, Essentials and Plus does support multi-currency. You have to choose a home currency. Typically, it's USD. And that's the home currency just means, hey, this is what the reports are going to run in always. It's going to be USD. So, but you might want multi-currency on or whatever. Okay, so those are the key settings. Let's dive over to the items list. I like going from the gear icon because I'm a creature of habit, but I could have also gone to sales, products, and services, right? Now, immediately what you see, and you probably noticed this for the last year, 15 months, is the ability to track a reorder point, or low stock and out of stock. Helps me filter the list. So we are going to be focusing on the out of stock today, which they are two cat accessory, which is a category, items, both inventory parts. And I can add things to this. I can add the income and account and expense account. You can add the inventory account, a purchase description, or quantity on PO. These things you can add to the list. Okay? You can group by category, which is really, category is a list element. So in the Planet Pause, I have like 9 categories, and I've assigned items related to the category so that when I'm on my list, I am sorting by category. Here are my cat accessories, here are my dog and cat toys, dog and cat treats, etc. It's just a way visually for me to see stuff, okay? And I can also filter by a particular category as well as an item type. Now, within the products and service list itself, there are 4 kind of subtypes. I don't mean sub-items. I mean just types that you can call them. Inventory, non-inventory, service, and bundle. Bundle is a group item. We'll look at that. It's very important, particularly for product-based, because it allows me to hide on the customer-facing sales form the component parts. It can just be the description and the amount. It's great for contractors, but also good for like this particular client because they do a lot of grooming and boarding, and they don't need to see all the individual stuff I'm billing them for, right? Just the main amount. So I like the bundle. It's akin to the group item. It is not a build assembly. Again, the feature set that QBO Plus does not have, that's, I think, critical for most product-based businesses, manufacturing, clearly. Build assembly, unit of measure, right? Not in there. And if you just need that, and that's really critical, and they want to stay on QBO and not go back to Premier Manufacturer or Enterprise with like advanced inventory, then I would suggest SOS inventory. All right, so those are the types, and I'm going to filter by cat accessories, right? It just allows me to filter, the list, so I can just look at them. And then I can see all the low stock just by clicking, right? But we're going to go ahead and focus on the cat cardboard cafe and the cat metropolis. Yes, those are actual items that you can purchase for your cats. And if you have cats, you probably already know. One of my colleagues is a huge cat fan, and she has added all these items, but they are real items that happen. You can go on Amazon. Okay, pretty cool. And while we don't connect directly to Amazon, there are third-party bridges for e-commerce. I don't really cover e-commerce much, but at apps.com, quick tangent, but I want to make sure you know, apps.com, as it loads slowly, you can filter for e-commerce, right? Browse by category. I mean, look at all the different niches that are third-party apps for. There's like 400 plus apps just on apps.com. That means they've been vetted by Intuit, but I'm sure there's thousands of apps that connect to QBO. I like Unify. It really connects from most shopping carts to QBO, but there's several. Cloud Cart I've heard is pretty good. WooCommerce. There's another one called Big Commerce that does EDI, right? So there's that kind of stuff. So, again, you can look at the ecosystem as the hub, not necessarily QuickBooks, right? And QBO is just an app. And then desktop is not really relevant. You can actually move away from desktop if you want, or just keep the ones that will not move on it or have poor high-speed connection in their area, whatever reason. They're not comfortable having data in the cloud. They don't care about the phone and the mobility. Those are all perfect for desktop clients, you know. Not so much feature set because I could just do QBO Plus in an app. Okay, enough about apps. So we're going to focus on these two, and those are the categories that I have. We'll get to price rules as well. So we'll look at out of stock, and I'm going to drill into a particular item because we want to look at inventory. These are inventory items, right? And I have the name, SKU, category, so you assign it that way. You can also set a default class and a preferred vendor at the item level. But it's three-sided in that I have inventory asset, sales revenue, don't worry about the price rules yet, and then at the below I have cost. So this item hits three different accounts depending on what form I have it on. Reorder point, we do have a field for that. So when it hits 2 or below, I'm going to get to low or out of stock status. That's how you set that up. Okay, and that's the inventory parts. The other thing I wanted to mention is the non-inventory. One second. Type non-inventory. Yeah, so you can have two-sided items, whereas I have sales going to revenue and I have purchase going to cost of materials, a COGS account. It might not need to be inventory. They might just be purchasing stuff and reselling it, so that's non-inventory. It's not actually inventory you're keeping. So just know that QBO Plus supports two-sided items. That's what I mean. And so that when I go to, say, a bill or something, right, and I'm buying from this big pet vendor, you know, there's the account details. Don't worry about the drawer, but the drawer is good because you see open POs that I could add to the bill, right? I might as well just add them all now and clear them out. But the drawer is important. And it's also on the cost, on the revenue side as well. When you're on an invoice and you have a bunch of stuff tagged to a customer, the drawer, we saw that on Tuesday. Hopefully you were there for that one, service-based workflow. The drawer is important. It just reminds us of stuff that's, you know, could get lost. We don't want to get lost. I want to add it to the bill. But notice where it puts it, not up here. Maybe I put freight here, you know, and this is like the freight and delivery or something like that. So account details, right? And I could tag a class to that or whatever. Location. Right? Location tracking. But what I'm more interested in is this item details, right? That setting puts the item section on cost transactions. Really important. These are inventory parts, but I could also do two-sided items, right? I could do a two-sided item. And I might look at, oh, what was that? Sorry, I'm drawing a blank. Right-click, duplicate the tab you're on to get another window. Right, this is open windows. It's not an open window list, I know. I like how I can toggle quickly a desktop in the view open window list window. It's awesome. But it's as close as I'm going to get on the web in QBO for right now. You right-click the tab you're on, duplicate. That's how you get open windows. I'm going back to the item list because I have a terrible short memory. And if I'm looking at type and like service, for instance, what do we got here? Yeah, treatments, boarding, grooming, that's fine. Let's say we have this bill, but I'm also doing some, well, I'm not buying that. We'll go back to non-inventory parts. Clear filter, looking at, nope, non-inventory. There we go. What was it? Skin cream. Okay. I don't know why that would be on here. Anyway, this allows me to put on the cost form so I can buy like 10 of these. It's not inventory, but it's still going to hit COGS, right? Which also begs the question, let's save this bill. Quick tip, if you want to see what's happening behind the transaction, do click on the More tab at the bottom of any transaction that is saved, that's been created. Go to Transaction Journal. This shows me, from an accountant perspective, it's great. It's the debit credit behind the scenes, right? So notice, cost of materials, a COGS account was impacted by which item? The non-inventory part. Right, the one that wasn't inventory, because we know cost of goods sold for inventory is not going to be debited till you sell it. So this proves that accounts payable was credited, great, but so should the other side balance, 435, and it will. COGS is debited only because I have a non-inventory or a two-sided item on there, right? And then we have freight and delivery, which is like expense, obviously debited, and then so is inventory asset because this is me receiving the items, right? So I like going to the journal report just to get, especially if I'm coming over from desktop and I want to make sure that QBO is behaving similarly. Okay, let me go to back to the items list. There's a couple other things I want to point out that are important to know about. Then we'll do some purchasing, partial receiving, and we'll do some selling and some reporting and move on from there. If I edit this item, the cafe, you can make quantity adjustments and starting value adjustments. So I can make an ongoing quantity adjustment. Actually, that's what I did to get down to 0 because they had like 12 of these. So I made a quantity adjustment and I offsetted it to some account. So there's an offsetting account that you can choose. The starting value, this is really not something that's supposed to be done periodically. It's supposed to be done like one time. The scenario being, okay, Woody put all these items in QBO 2 years ago, but he did the wrong cost. Actually, let's consider it for just this year. He put it in, in early January, and he put in the wrong cost. It should have been $850. So I want to backdate that, to January 16th because I started selling the item on the 17th or something. Right? So, and I can choose the account. I know we default to opening balance equity. We shouldn't be defaulting to that. But maybe you're defaulting to some kind of cost of goods sold or cost of materials or something like that. You'll know better than me. That's where I really default to your guys' expertise. I'm just assuming it's a COGS account, but you might want it to be another current asset or something like that. Either way, this starting value adjustment is going to impact two accounts. Right? So that's what you can click Save and Close, and that's a value adjustment. Again, you will get this error, though, kind of why I do it. Please select a date that comes before any transactions that use this item. So I'm going to have to go way back, right, in time to make this value adjustment. That's what I mean. Like, this should only be done rarely, and it should be done just because Woody put in the wrong cost initially, and hopefully for the current year, but you might have to backdate it. It's not like the ongoing value adjustment you can do or cost adjustment you can do in desktop. It's really just meant for a one-time value adjustment. But at least you can do it. You used to not be able to do it. You used to have to go and enter a transaction or something like that to do that, backdate it before you started selling. That's another workaround for it. But the quantity adjustment is just adjusting quantity. So that is supported at the item level. Let's go into Art Deco Tree real quick. Reorder point, we went over that. Quantity on PO, it'll show. So there's some good info on this. And then price rules. We'll look at price rules. Now, I'm going to do purchase order. Specifically, this is a non-posting transaction, right? I'm going to do it from the big pet vendor. And again, item details. Now, purchase orders are item-based, but you can also do account. I could do freight and delivery up there. And let's do the ones that we had to. I think that was like cat accessories. And there was a Metropolis. And then there was the cardboard cafe. I think we had that. Yeah. Now, when you mouse over it, it shows you, even on sales forms, quantity on hand you have, and the reorder point. And if you're out or in. 1 second, please, and get some water. Sorry about that. I must have had too much milk in my coffee this morning. So just know that you can mouse over and see that. So I'm going to order, 10 of these, and then on this one I'll order, 5 or something, just to save it. Here's the PO. Non-posting, but I'm going to copy the bill. I just want to show the partial receiving, right, because you can do that. And you've been able to do that for a while. So I'm going to say I actually brought in like 5 of these and all 5 of those, right, and that's fine. So we'll click, actually let's just click Save. This is a posting transaction. We're not going to look at the transaction journal. We already did, but you could assume that this would be debiting inventory asset and crediting accounts payable, right? There's no COGS here that's going to be impacted because they're inventory parts. Always look for the blue link. These are the breadcrumbs if you want to get back. Go back to the purchase order, and you'll see at the bottom what's been received and what's been closed. So this has been received. I still have 10 open, right? So then I could go copy to a bill again. Or you could do, maybe this was like an Amazon purchase or something. What's more relevant today? Maybe not a bill. Maybe it's just a credit card, expense. So I do big pet vendor, and boom, it's going to open up. What about the purchase order? Well, there's the one that I have. So, I have other bills. Why are you seeing bills? That's because it's want to make sure, QBO wants to make sure that, hey, you have open bills. Don't you want to go pay bills first and not use the credit card expense? Right? So it's good to have the drawer because it reminds you. I don't want to double book it. But in this case, it's just adding the purchase order in. And the only thing it adds is those 5 remaining, right? So partial receiving, alive and well in QBO. Plus, and I say plus only because you need plus for purchase orders. So now I have 1 low in stock, right? The out of stock is cleared out. So, partial receiving works. Let's go sell something. I'm going to go to the sales receipt. Notice I have my 3 custom fields, right? and we'll say this was Christina, and she purchased a lot of those cat things. And notice I can start typing by like cat accessories, right? And it brings me to that category, that area of the item list, and then it shows me all the items within that category. So easy to find stuff in the fields. That's what I kind of like about the category feature. But we're going to do Cardboard Cafe, and we're also going to do the Metropolis. She bought one of each. Now when I click Save, right, this is when you go to More, Transaction Journal, this is going to show me, the now cost of goods sold is debited, right, based on when I bought it and what the cost was when I bought it, based on first in, first out rules. Obviously, we're going to see a lot of revenue credited there and undeposited funds, right? From the sales receipt, there is a deposit to field. Let's go back to the transaction. That's important. Undeposited funds is not a default deposit to account in a setting. You have to choose it on the customer payment window and on the sales receipt. I wish it was a default preference. Okay, quickest way to get back to a transaction you just did, left click in the search field. Should be right there. So we'll get back to the sales receipt, right, deposit to, undeposited funds. Now I could have put in, this was for Rufus, sales rep was me, and then pet kind is a black lab, right? Just for me, I could have this info be internal as well, right? You can save and send, you can make it recurring, we'll talk about that, member customization we went over, print preview, stuff like that. The reason why I'm doing that is I'm going to go into reporting next. Relating reporting. Now, 1 second, let me back up. The cost of this, the rate I should say, had a discount, a price rule. The default sales rep for one Cardboard Cafe is $20. It was $15. Likewise, the Metropolis, the default sales rate is $500. And I know you got to be a serious cat owner to really invest here. But $375 is the default. It's like 25% off. Well, how am I getting that? Right? Well, that's a good question. So I'm going to all my lists. You can also get it here from the product service list. You have price rules. All right? And I created a discount for Beyond the Basics. It goes from today or yesterday through, today, yeah, through the 31st of the month. You're just setting up a price rule. Very important, because I'm doing it for all customers, but when you turn on price rules, it opens up a customer type feature. So I can assign customers to either cat lovers or dog lovers. I could just do a price rule just for dog lovers or cat lovers, right? And then the discount would only show as available for people who have cats, okay? So customer type is a great feature, but you can only get it when you turn on price rules. So even if your client doesn't want to use price rules, by all means turn it on for the customer type functionality. And then I could also filter or exclude, the price rule for things like services, which I did. I did all inventory parts, but I could have done it just for cat accessories. Like I can have the price rule at the category level as well. Hey, this weekend, we're just doing dog and cat treats. They're on sale. So get creative with your categories. And know that the price rule will filter by them. Now I can do percentage, fixed amount, or custom price per item, right? So that's why, this is beyond just QuickBooks Pro, because QuickBooks Pro does fixed percent for its price levels. I can do a custom price per item if I want. That's more like Premier, but it's one better because I can do a date range. And then I'm decreasing it by no rounding apply. So that's where you have the price rules, right? Now there's no price rule list yet. Report's just going to show the price that you sold it at. But it's important to know. That's why I was getting those prices. I'm glad I remembered, because price rules is available for your clients. Turn it on. I showed you where in the sales setting. Now let's look at some key reports. Obviously, AR type reporting, customer balance, invoice list. We're soon going to have like an invoice or payment and what invoices it paid off report. That's going to be sweet. That'll be nice. But mostly I'm looking at sales and customers. Here's my inventory reporting. So I have an inventory valuation detail report. Looking at this month to date, right? Cardboard Cafe, I did some stuff today. Then look at the columns. There are, on the detail reporting, you can add more columns. So I could get rid of memo. I have FIFO cost. That might be helpful. Asset value, the rate, the quantity in hand. then I can add like pet kind, pet name, and sales rep, right? Those custom fields. And that way I can see, who it was, right? And that helps me report. Because when I go to, I can group by, I can't group by them yet, but I could filter. No, I can't filter by the sales rep. But anyway, you'll see it as a column, and you can rearrange the columns at least. That might be helpful. But on sales by report, so the sales by customer detail or product and service detail report, I can filter by the custom field. So here's, again, detail reports are great because there's just more columns you can do. I could add sales rep, pet kind, and pet name. Get rid of memo. I can add some other things, that are available. And I can group by sales rep. Run report. So we're just going to see Marty. We're going to see total for Woody, not specified, for this date range. And I can even filter the report as well for, the custom field. I could filter by pet kind. So the custom fields, only 3, they're impactful in that I can filter and customize the detail-related reports. Oh, yeah, Pam, totally. I'm recording it now. There already is another recording of it. So if you can hang on 5 minutes after, let me make a note. I'll just leave. Actually, I just won't delete your question. I'll leave it up. I'll go find it and then post the YouTube in the chat room. Cool. So reporting, very helpful because of what you can do, filtering and stuff. But summary reports, remember, they're pretty locked into what you see. I'm sure you already noticed this with your financial summary reports. I mean, I can do some comparatives and filtering, but there's not a whole lot of columns I can add. So that'd be the same with like the inventory valuation summary or the AR aging summary or the sales by customer summary, right? Not a lot of customization or group by, but gives me SKU, quantity, asset value, calculated average. I mean, why does it even include SKU? I can't tell you. Maybe you're using that for manufacturer part number. But for me, SKU is not like a critical column for the evaluation summary report. I'd want a little more flexibility. So maybe you go to Excel, maybe you focus on inventory valuation detail, things like that. But I like, those are the main reports on the cost side, right? Because it's product-based business. What you owe. Obviously, we have accounts payable, and soon we're going to have bills and the bill payments that were paid, that was used to pay them, all in one report. That's pretty sweet. Unpaid bills. So look for that. That's coming soon to your QBO. We just haven't had that type of visibility in a while. So to actually be able to see my customer payments and what invoices they paid off, and be able to see my bill payments and what bills they paid off in one report, heck yeah. And then you have expense and vendor reporting. I use expense by vendor summary a lot. I also use transaction list by vendor. Okay, but I'm sure you have others you use. I mean, you guys do forward reporting better than me. Sales tax. Let's talk about that. So recurring transactions I wanted to mention, yes, that's a list. Your product-based clients are going to want to set up recurring transactions. And, we support most transaction types except for a customer payment, unless you're talking sales receipt, but I mean like the actual AR payment. Paycheck and bill payment. That's not recurring transactionable. But all the rest are. You set up recurring transactions. Now, let me dive into, let me see. Where was that? Let me just see if I can do this real quick, because I do think QuickBooks Payments is super important. Now, I have slides for that, and we'll look at sales tax too. But let me see if I can get into Sean's QBOA, because he has a file that has payments turned on. It might be my other email. Yeah, I think it is. One second. Just bear with me, please. I just want to show, like, when you do a recurring transaction with QB Payments turned on, what's available. Yep, it's a different email. So let me go in as this. 1 second. Oh, by the way, I have all these Chrome users. I like to isolate QBO work. I'm not saying you need 7 of them. You probably just need 1 extra one, because you might be using Chrome for other non-QBO related things. And if you want a top icon bar, so you're like 1 click away, I suggest just going into Manage People and then creating another Chrome user and just isolate QBO work. So that's what I typically try to do. All right, I'm going to go into QBO as a different user. Yep, there it is. And I'm going to go into a different QBOA. It's kind of spinning. Here it is. So in this QBOA, there's a file that has payments turned on. And if you're using QBOA in the fact that you have the Your Books file, you can do this with your clients, by the way, what I'm about to show you. Let's go into healing. Yep, here it is, this file. So you want to just automate getting paid. And your clients will like to do this. And if you do it and you're living it, then it's easier to then test it. And, you're really passionate about getting your clients on it too, right? Because you're seeing the result of it, right? Kind of hard to get behind something that you're not actually practicing yourself. Fair enough? I mean, I know that one. So in payments, there's a way to turn it on, right? And then when I go to my recurring transaction list, once that's on, when I set up one, like let's just say it's a sales receipt. It's just a template. But I have the ability, when I choose the particular customer, we'll do this for Sean, when I choose like ACH, it's going to open up my enter bank info. So literally, you could do this with your clients because what you're going to do is not print it and send it. You're going to have QBO send it automatically. So I have ACH here, or sometimes you'll use EFT or e-check, but you'll create a payment method that'll open up this enter bank info. And I can put in Sean's accounting and routing, check the box that's PCI compliance, basically, right? Signed authorization, you read them the script over the phone. Maybe you're doing lunch with them or you're going out to visit, however you want to do it, right? But that makes it PCI SOC compliant right there. And I put in the accounting routing number, and when I set up payments, you put in your own for the firm. And then what this will do is once I have it, because it'll remember next time, is I can set this to monthly on the 7th, no end date, but I'm going to start it, in September. He's going to pay me whatever the service fees are, whatever he's buying. And then it's an auto ACH payment from him, right? He gets the receipt on the 7th. I will see it in the firm bank account by the 12th. So I really like that piece. Now it's Sean's live file, so I'm not going to create the transaction. But my point being is that's how you would set it up in your books, but you can also train your clients on how to do that in their file because they're going to have clients that do ongoing invoice payments, or they just want to get paid monthly for some services they're providing. Like this client I'm in, the Planet Paws, they have clients that do monthly grooming, right? So why not get them on this monthly subscription? $50 a month, $75 a month. Set up the recurring sales receipt. Payments is turned on. Put in Woody's bank and routing. Every month I'm going to get $75. Way better than having to create an invoice, remember that, or send it out or whatever. But if I have to do invoicing, set up as a recurring invoice and payments turned on. I can offer credit card or ACH, right? So I like that payments. It just helps automate getting paid. And that's certainly relevant for product-based clients. For any, even service-based probably, I'm guessing. Maybe even more. I should probably start showing that. Starting in 2 weeks, I'll start. Mental note. So that's that. But I wanted to show you that because that's what you can do now with QBOA and your Books file and getting paid from your clients. You do the same thing. Recurring sales receipt, QuickBooks payments, ACH, bank and routing, done. Okay, we won't have to look at the slides for that, but do download the deck. All right. Sales tax. Jumping into a different file. You're going to start seeing this more and more. We're automating sales tax. It's accrual basis on reporting right now only. You can opt out of it. I'll show you where to do that. I know there's the old sales tax method. But this is more for automating based on the product and service, based on your address or the small business address, based on the address of the buyer or the customer. So let me go into the product service list. Well, first, let's go into taxes. We'll go into sales tax. And, I'll just go into sales tax settings. I know I have a lot of stuff to do, right? I mean, I just set this up to test. It's just a mess. Yours will be a lot cleaner. I don't have anybody to pay, right? I mean, this is not a real file, if you will. But when you turn on, you see, here's where you turn it off. Get that question a lot. How do you turn off the new sales tax? Right there. Just click on the sales tax settings when you're in the sales tax module. But when you add an agency, it asks you like 2 or 3 questions. The agency name, right? Say it's like Alabaster City or Baldwin County, and Birmingham City, Alabama. Based on that, it's going to already do all the rates for me. You notice I don't have to put any rates in any fields. It's not like the older sales tax module or the desktop one. We're going to automate it based on, we have something built in behind the scenes, that does sales tax. Filing frequency, right? Monthly, quarterly, yearly. And then you can choose a start date, right? Now I have several of them, but that's how you set up the sales tax. Now why it matters for products and services is because at the products and service level, when you have the sales tax module turned on, let's go into the widget we're going to sell later. I have, if it's taxable, and it is, here, what's the sales tax category? Retail. But we have other options too. What do I sell within that category? Well, taxable retail items. But there's other things too. I'm assuming it's a complete list. I'm not sure. It's got to be based on sales tax law. So look for that. If you don't see it, gear icon, right? Send feedback online. But when it's taxable, you have a sales tax category and what you sell, because we consider that when you're selling stuff. And then at the customer level, I go into Natasha. I usually use her as an example. She's in Boulder, right? So that matters too. But if I go to tax info, no. There's no default item I can set for taxes. It's either they're exempt or not. So really it's at the product and service level and then just setting up sales tax. And based on the business address of QBO or the small businesses using QBO and the customer address I'm selling to. So let's watch and see what happens. I'm going to do a sales receipt, or it could be an invoice, either way. And sometimes I got to reload the page. I've been noticing if it just freezes, just reload the page. Sales receipt. Okay, good. Natasha, right? And I'm going to sell the widget. We'll say 10 of them. Notice the sales tax takes a while. See, now it turns blue. When it turns blue, it calculates 40 cents, right? So $10, 40 cents. Now why? Click on sales tax, and it'll open up the window of like sales tax info. We calculate sales tax for you based on where you are and what you sell. If you ship, we account for that too. So here are, because I set up a Colorado and a Boulder sales tax setting, here was the tax descriptions it put in. Colorado, the state, the Boulder tax, which is 0. The regional transportation is 1%, and there's a 0.1 scientific cultural facilities, whatever that is for. And then you can override it here. I get questions about that too. How do you override sales tax with the new module? And then how we calculated the tax based on the business address and the customer info. I'm shipping it to them. The ship address, that's how we got the 40 cents. Now I'm assuming that's correct. But when I report on it, it's going to be accrual based. There's no way for me to switch to a cash basis reporting on this yet. That is coming. So that's how you see how QBO automatically calculated the sales tax and how you're going to see it soon as it rolls out. But again, if it's not something that your client wants because it's off by 1% or whatever it being, it's missing a county or something in there that's new and we just haven't updated it yet, then I would turn it off, right? Or I would override it or make an adjustment. You can make an adjustment when you go pay it. You have to go view the return. It's going to collect the sales tax for the payable. And then you can make an adjustment here. If it's not really, this is where you can make your adjustment for the reason, the account and the amount. Those are the reason options. So you'll see this in new QBO client subscriptions. And again, to turn it off, it's when you click on sales tax settings, it's this tab. Okay. So that's sales tax, payments. All right, so we've had that. So let me go find for Pam, I'm going to quickly pause sharing. Let me go to YouTube and find the video. Any questions you guys have, we're pretty much at the end. I told you we'd be done probably even a little early. If there are other questions you have, though, please ask in the chat area, and then we'll all probably leave by, oh, I don't know, a few minutes early. But I'm going to go find the video that we have. Spotlight, 6 product-based. Okay. I will put this in the questions area for everybody. Right? Again, if you want to download the deck, it's in the handout section of GoToWebinar. And there's the video, Pam. Hope that works out, and others have it too now. Basically covering the same info for sure that we went through today. I'm looking through the list. I don't see much else. Let's see, Alicia. Washington State has a business and occupational tax that is paid at the time sales tax is filed. Would be awesome if the sales tax center calculated too. So Alicia, that's not from what. So what I'm assuming is you have a client already on with the new sales tax module, and it's not actually including that occupational tax, correct? Just to answer in the questions box so I know. It's a client tax, okay. Let me see if I don't have Washington yet. Good, okay. So let me choose Washington. Let's see here. Yeah, so it's just the state itself, like not a particular county or city. And then filing frequency. Okay, you do an adjustment. So yeah, so I've been hearing some of that. And let me go back to August 1st. Period, January. Okay, Pam, cool. So I got Washington and then calculating it. So I'd need a client. Let me just do a quick client here. Again, if you guys need to leave, by all means, head out. I'm just going to do this quickly. Let's do an invoice and I'll just add a client on the fly. And Alicia, I'm going to add her details. Let me add the details because I want you to be, and again, I don't know, Main Street, Seattle, WA. Oh, I need to write zip code though. Sorry. This is the comedy part of the thing. 98520. Thank you. I was going to go Google it. Cool. Because based on this, and as long as you're not, exempt, you're not address, and I'll say shipping same as billing, that should work. So if I sell you that same widget, and we'll do another 10. Say so I'll do 20 widgets. It's calculating $2.02. So let's see if we include it. Yeah, see? So we just do the Seattle City and then the 6.5% for Washington State, so not the other one. So right, so you're either overriding it, I'm guessing, or doing an adjustment when you go pay it. Okay, got it. Thank you for that. So it's not in there. So these are the things, I mean, to me it seems like version 1 for sales tax module, but as long as you're okay with doing adjustment, I've had some firms that for some clients the adjustment's just too complicated, so they just turned it off. And they just add a line on the invoice sales receipt. So I'm hoping that we can support everybody one day with this. But thanks for that. Thanks for letting me do it. That's Aberdeen. Okay, cool. Either way, though, it didn't. I don't believe it would have done that if I did Aberdeen, though. Let me just check, see if it changes it any. I don't think it would have done anything. But let me see. Aberdeen. Aberdeen. What do I remember that from? Wasn't that like where Nirvana was from? Kurt Cobain? Anyway. Let's see, Aberdeen. Yep, got it. Thought so. Aberdeen. There we go. Let me see if that changes it all. Oh, 176. See, check it out. Well, that's just the Grays Harbor. It's still missing that one you're talking about. So again, for the new sales tax, I think what I'm realizing is it might miss. I know for Iowa there's something it misses. So if you have to do adjustment like Alicia does, then you would. Oh, Jackie, sorry, the screen froze. Sorry, guys, that was my fault. Apologize. What I did, though, is I went in and put on Aberdeen, and then I checked the sales tax, and then, that's how it's calculating it. And I was looking for this other percent that your peer here is noticing, but Anyway, so it did change it because the other one was 202. So I mean, but I don't know, I think it's missing like these other county taxes in some cases. So hopefully we're going to solve for that. Yeah. Okay. Yep. So Alicia does an adjustment. Sorry about that, Jackie. And then best place to get a comparison of QBO and desktop features. Melanie, here, let me show you this. Now, this is not easy to see, but it was created years ago, and Stacy and I put it up on the QBO show thing, and I do apologize for not remembering to share again. Let's see here. If I go to useful links, let's see here. It's called the Feature Mix, that's QBO, QuickBooks Matrix. It's an online spreadsheet. Because you can, I mean, when you're setting up a new client sub, there's a compare link. So when you're setting up like wholesale billing or client pay, when you're adding a QBO sub to QBOA, there's a compare link, which goes like really high level, but that's really just QBO. So no, that's not it. I'm sure online there is, but they're going to be super high level. But this matrix is A to Z, and I have about 130-ish different feature sets. It's also in the deck on my bio slide. You'll see that. 154, across Pro, Premier, Enterprise, Account Editions, Mac, which I should probably take Mac out because it's not really, we don't sell it anymore. Self-employed, which is not going to be much. But you have Essentials and Plus, which really are what you're concerned about versus, say, maybe what Pro or Premier. And then I have some notes to consider. So this has been available for years, man. I did this a long time ago for someone I was supporting back in Texas, and we just keep using it. And I try to update it a few times a year because things change, But it's not super easy to find things. I'm sure you can do Control F, and hopefully what I call things, you call things too, right? Like I'm just that's because or else you're gonna be like, well, I'm looking for this one feature, and it might even be in here, but Woody calls it something different. That's the only drawback or the rub on this effort. But I'm glad I did it. It took like 2 weeks, and then I just update it. But anyway, it's called the Matrix. Feel free. I'll put a link to it. Now you can't download it though. That's the only thing. It's like an online spreadsheet, but I will send it to everybody.